It's no secret that Chapter 5 has left many players jaded towards the game as a whole, whether that's because of clunky weapons, broken items, or just a fundamental shift of the core gameplay loop. Look, I understand that many players really like Chapter 5, and their reasons for enjoying the 3 seasons that we have gotten so far are completely valid. However, there are an equally large number of players who just want something that plays more like the base game that they remember, and that's why Fortnite's new Reload mode works so well. For those who live under a rock, this mode functions most similarly to Resurgence from Warzone, which is a comparison that everyone and their mother has made by now. I have nothing wrong with Epic taking ideas from other games, and often their best features aren't even original ideas in the first place, and I'm all for it. Honestly, given how divided the community has been recently, this mode is in some ways really what the game needed. Regardless of how you feel about Chapter 5, there's no doubt that the shift from hit scan to projectile-based weapons, overabundance of vehicle gameplay, and questionable loot pools is very difficult for many players to latch onto given the game they have become familiar with over the years. While Fortnite Reload isn't perfect by any means, there is one thing that remains consistent with this mode, and that's simplicity. I know that word is like the boogeyman for your average Chapter 5 enjoyer, but the main thing that usually plagues Fortnite's more recent seasons is the over-reliance on completely new content that doesn't fit well within the game. I've been saying for a while now that it would take significantly less effort to unvault old weapons, rather than pumping the game with new ones, which most of the time are worse, that only serve the purpose of being derivatives of pre-existing ones.
I just wanted to be like you.
And I wanted you to be better.
The Reload game mode has an underlying theme of relying on content from the game's past. The map alone features 3 returning POIs with a multitude of altered ones from Chapter 1. While this was clearly done in an effort to once again cash in on some of the nostalgia bucks, with old locations like Retail, Tilted, and Pleasant, there are some design features about older locations that just objectively work better than newer POIs. Newer chapters are all about expanding the boundaries of Fortnite, so to speak, and one of the many ways they will do this is with their new locations. The issue is, in an effort to make these locations look more aesthetically pleasing than older ones, many of the structures are awkward to maneuver and don't work well within the building grid. It's something I've said 1,000 times, and I will continue to say it because Epic often sacrifices consistency and quality for the sake of something looking cool. While they're unlikely to continue to make maps like this that appeal to people who can't seem to take off the rose-tinted glasses, so to speak, it is refreshing to play on a map that isn't a clusterfuck of structures that don't seem to work with the core mechanic. Aside from the map, the gameplay itself is what really sells the mode for me. This mode rewards aggression quite well, with the increased chest counts allowing you to drop into fights sooner, as well as additional mini shields that drop after eliminating a player. I'm not sure why they didn't just make this siphon. I feel like it could have been a core selling point for such an aggressive mode, but I guess someone at Epic Games just has this deep-seated hatred for that feature, because despite the praise it gets from the community, they refuse to re-implement it.
I will stop being so polite. Get the fuck out of my sight before I demolish you.
This mode really is a stark contrast from the Battle Royale playlist, which honestly kind of feels devoid of life by comparison. A massive part of this has to do with no AIs, which was a decision that will forever make this mode play more interesting and challenging than the normal one. Usually I really only play pubs because ranked is a sad joke that takes hours to queue into by the time I get on, and a massive issue with pubs is I run into anywhere from about 3 to 10 real players in my lobby. The problem is Epic recognizes that most people don't have the attention span to wait more than 30 seconds for a queue time, so to account for this they will fill their remaining 80 players or so with complete AIs. This leads to matches where you spend around 90% of the time in your car, not because it's unbalanced, but rather because you're looking for signs of life. Look, I could keep covering shitty aspects of the current game, but I think you get the idea. Epic Games wants to appeal towards an older audience, and as a result, this indirectly leads to something that plays better than the normal playlist. However, this mode does have some issues, and this video isn't meant to be my personal diary about how much fun I'm having, and just because I find the mode to be enjoyable doesn't mean that it's without flaw. The loot pool makes no sense. When the trailer was originally released, nostalgia must have blinded me or something, because afterward Leo pointed out to me that the lever managed to sneak its way into this mode. For those who were lucky enough to skip Chapter 2 Season 5, Chapter 3 Season 4, and Chapter 4 Season 3, it's important that you understand that the lever is likely one of the most poorly constructed shotguns that Epic has ever added into the game. The lever does a decent bit of damage, but it's significantly less than the pump. The lever also has the same size crosshair as the tack, which might imply that it shoots shoots just as fast, but it's still significantly slower and not fast enough to be used in rapid succession. So you might be asking yourself, if this weapon both does less damage than the pump and has to be utilized like one because it can't be used in rapid succession, then what is the point of picking it up? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it's pretty much the only weapon that you can find at the beginning of the game. The Ranger is just as bad, if not more obnoxious than this weapon, but I take significantly less issue with it because its spawn rate is just significantly lower. From my experience, it's far more likely that I'll come across a pump than a Ranger, but when it comes to the lever, they're nearly impossible to avoid. Another big issue that I found with this loot pool was the addition of item rotation. Shockwaves and grapplers both offer an immediate get out of jail free card for anyone that gets themselves stuck in a bad situation. While many have been quick to point out that item rotation makes moving around the map significantly less tedious, that argument doesn't hold up on a map that is 1/5 the size of the Battle Royale island. They at the very least had the restraint to learn from Season OG a bit and adjust the non-fall damage grappler from 20 to 10 uses, but having shockwaves in the game just makes no sense and only leads to fights constantly ending in chasing a player across the map. This whole loot pool just seems like Epic took the base Chapter 1 weapons and then flung shit at a wall from other chapters. There are some really strong weapons that they could have pulled from with other chapters, which I'm not opposed to, but for some reason I guess they just couldn't help themselves and decided to add the Stinger SMG, Sloan's Burst Assault Rifle, the Gunner Breacher Shotgun, Accelerated Shotgun, the Explosive AR, Foundation's MKAR, Gunner's Stinger SMG, Sky's AR, Midas's Drum Gun, Ocean's Bottomless Chug Jug, Jules' Lighter Gun. Honestly, I think the really sad thing about this mode is a lot of these issues just don't bother me as much as they should. Epic Games has set the bar so low at this point that the bloated loot pool with a plethora of issues, by comparison, features infinitely more variety in playstyles than any loot pool in Chapter 5. I still stand by the fact that this mode is what Fortnite needed. It's no Season OG in terms of player counts, but it functions well enough as a mode that isn't bogged down by poorly designed items or vehicles that just deviate the gameplay too heavily. Regardless of its issues, it's a mode that I have been having an amazing time on, and hopefully if it isn't permanent, Epic can at least use it as an observational tool to understand why so many people struggle to enjoy the base game. No other game can slap together a mode consisting of completely old content with barely any build up to its release and still see massive player inclines as a result of something that is more or less minimal effort. I'm very curious to hear what you think about the new mode in the comments below. Anyways, thank you for watching and have a great day.